My name is Harper Quinn, and when they asked why I'd trade a skyscraper for a tractor, I smiled. Because they didn't know what I was really planting. My friends, my colleagues, even my own family called me crazy for leaving my corporate job in Boston to buy a rundown farm in Vermont. But a year later, they weren't laughing, they were asking me for jobs. It all started at a rooftop bar in Boston's financial district, the city skyline glittering around us. I was 30, a mid-level marketing manager at a tech firm, pulling 60-hour weeks and living in a shoebox apartment that cost half my salary. My life looked successful on paper. Corner office, designer heels, a LinkedIn profile full of buzzwords. But I was miserable. The endless meetings, the office politics, the feeling that I was building someone else's dream. It was suffocating. I'd always loved plants, sneaking basil and mint onto my tiny balcony, dreaming of open fields. So when I inherited $50,000 from my grandmother, I made a decision that shocked everyone. I quit my job and bought a 20-acre farm in Burlington, Vermont. The announcement came at a going-away party my coworkers threw me, though it felt more like a roast. My boss, Greg Sullivan, raised a glass with a smirk. To Harper, who's trading PowerPoint for pitchforks. Good luck with the cows. Laughter rippled through the room. My best friend, Jenna, pulled me aside later, her voice low. Harper, are you sure? Farming's not a career, it's a gamble. Even my parents were skeptical. At a tense family dinner, my dad, a retired accountant, shook his head. You're throwing away a stable job for dirt and debt. What do you even know about farming? My older sister, Claire, a corporate lawyer, chimed in. You'll be back in 6 months, begging for your old desk. I didn't argue. I just packed my life into a used pickup truck and drove north. The farm, called Maple Hollow, was a wreck, overgrown fields, a sagging barn, and a farmhouse with a leaky roof. The realtor warned me it hadn't been worked in a decade, but I saw potential in the rich soil and the rolling hills. Burlington was a haven for organic foodies, with farmers markets and co-ops buzzing. I wasn't planning to grow corn or raise cows. I wanted a sustainable farm, organic herbs, heirloom vegetables, and edible flowers for local restaurants. It was a dream I'd scribbled in notebooks since college, inspired by my grandmother's garden. The first weeks were brutal. I had no experience, just a stack of farming books and YouTube tutorials. I spent my inheritance on seeds, tools, and a second-hand tractor, leaving $5,000 for emergencies. My hands blistered from clearing weeds and my back ached from digging. The farmhouse was freezing with creaky floors and a wood stove I barely knew how to use. I was alone except for a stray cat I named Sage who curled up on my porch. Doubt crept in, had I made a mistake? Then I met Amos Tate, a grizzled farmer who owned the neighboring land. Amos stopped by one morning, his pickup rattling into my driveway. He was in his 60s with a weathered face and a no-nonsense stare. Heard you're the city girl who bought this mess, he said, eyeing my muddy boots. You know what you're doing? I laughed, wiping sweat from my forehead. Not really. But I'm learning. He nodded like he respected the honesty. Takes guts to start from nothing. Come by my place tomorrow, I'll show you the ropes. Amos became my lifeline. He taught me how to test soil, plant in rows, and fix my tractor when it sputtered. He didn't sugarcoat it. Farming was hard, but he saw something in me I wasn't sure I saw myself. I started small, planting basil, kale, and edible nasturtiums in a half-acre plot. Amos connected me with a local co-op, Green Valley Market, where I sold my first harvest, $200 worth of herbs in a single weekend. It wasn't much, but it felt like a fortune. I used the money to buy more seeds and a greenhouse kit, assembling it with Amos's help. By month 4, I had a steady order from a Burlington bistro farmhouse table for weekly herb deliveries. They loved my organic basil and paid $500 a month. It was enough to cover my groceries and keep going. But my old life wasn't done with me. Jenna visited, her city heels sinking into the mud as she toured my farm. Harper, this is quaint, she said, her tone dripping with pity. Are you sure you don't miss Boston? Greg said they'd take you back. I shook my head, handing her a basket of fresh kale. I'm not going back, Jenna. This is my life now. She left, unconvinced, and I heard later she told our friends I was playing farmer, until I failed. My sister, Claire, texted me a job listing for a marketing assistant. Just in case, she wrote. I didn't reply. Their doubt only fueled me. I poured everything into Maple Hollow. By month 6, I'd expanded to 2 acres, growing heirloom tomatoes, microgreens, and lavender. I hired a part-time worker, Mia, a local college student studying agriculture, who helped with planting and deliveries. We built a website and I started an Instagram account posting photos of golden beets and misty morning fields. The account grew to 1,000 followers, mostly local foodies and chefs. A blogger from Burlington Foodie wrote a piece calling Maple Hollow, Vermont's rising star, and orders doubled. I was bringing in $2,000 a month. Not enough to get rich, but enough to believe I could make it. Then came the break I didn't expect. Amos introduced me to Lena Brooks, a consultant for Vermont's Farm to Table program. She visited Maple Hollow, her boots crunching through my fields. "You've got something special here," she said. "Your farm's small, but your focus on organic herbs is smart. Ever thought about scaling?" I hesitated. Scaling meant money I didn't have. Lena handed me an application for a state grant, $100,000 for sustainable farms. "Apply for this," she said. "And talk to my friend at Green Mountain Co-op. They're looking for suppliers." I applied that night, my hands shaking as I typed. If I got the grant, I could expand to 5 acres, hire more staff, and maybe even buy the neighboring plot Amos was selling. But the rumors started. I heard from Mia that Claire had been talking at a family party, saying I was wasting grandma's money on a hobby farm. Greg, my old boss, emailed me a job offer, calling my farm a cute side hustle. Even my parents called, their voices heavy with concern. "Harper, we're worried you're in over your head," my mom said. "Come home before you lose everything." I hung up, my jaw tight. They thought I was planting seeds in the dirt. They didn't see I was planting a legacy. Hey, Revenge Tempest fans. Can you feel Harper's grit? She's turning a rundown farm into a dream. Want to know who's begging for jobs later? Hit that subscribe button and join our crew. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. 8 months after I left my corporate job in Boston to buy Maple Hollow Farm in Burlington, Vermont, the fields that were once choked with weeds were bursting with life. Rows of basil, heirloom tomatoes, and lavender stretched across 2 acres, their colors vivid against the green mountains. My team, me, Mia, my part-time worker, and Sage the stray cat, was small but fierce. Amos Tate, my neighboring farmer and mentor, still stopped by weekly, his gruff advice keeping me grounded. My old life in Boston. My boss Greg, my friend Jenna, my sister Claire, thought I was chasing a pipe dream. They didn't know I was planting the seeds of an empire. Maple Hollow was starting to turn heads. Our weekly deliveries to Farmhouse Table, a local bistro, had doubled to $1,000 a month, and Green Valley Market, the co-op Amos introduced me to, was selling out my microgreens every weekend. My Instagram account hit 3,000 followers, with foodies and chefs sharing photos of dishes made with my edible flowers. A local magazine, Vermont Harvest, ran a feature calling Maple Hollow Burlington's organic gem, and orders spiked. I was pulling in $5,000 a month. Barely enough to cover expenses and Mia's wages, but enough to keep going. Every sale felt like a middle finger to the people who'd laughed at me. Then came the big news. I got the $100,000 state grant Lena Brooks had pushed me to apply for. The money let me expand to 5 acres, buy a better irrigation system, and hire 2 more workers. Jake, a local handyman, and Sarah, an agriculture grad with a knack for crop rotation. We built a second greenhouse and started growing specialty mushrooms, a high-value crop for Burlington's upscale restaurants. I also bought Amos's neighboring 10-acre plot for $40,000, using the grant and my savings. He gave me a discount, saying, "You're doing right by this land, Harper." That purchase doubled Maple Hollow's size, and I started dreaming bigger. A farm that supplied half of Vermont's organic restaurants. But my old life kept creeping in. Jenna texted me a screenshot of a LinkedIn post from Greg, my former boss. "Some people think farming's a career move," he'd written with a laughing emoji. "Stick to marketing, folks." I showed it to Mia, who rolled her eyes. "He's just mad you're not slaving away in his cubicles." I nodded, but it stung. Then my sister Claire called, her voice dripping with condescension. "Harper, I heard you're still playing farmer. I'm sending you a job listing. Boston's hiring marketing managers." I laughed, keeping my tone light. "Thanks, Claire, but I'm good. My farm's making more than your bonus last year." She hung up, and I knew she'd tell everyone I was delusional. The gossip spread. At a family Zoom call for my dad's birthday, I heard Claire whispering to my cousins, Harper's wasting her inheritance on that muddy disaster. My parents didn't defend me, they just sighed like I was a lost cause. I muted myself and kept working, checking soil samples while they toasted Claire's latest courtroom win. Their doubt only made me push harder. I wasn't just growing vegetables, I was growing a legacy they couldn't ignore. My big break came when Lena Brooks connected me with Green Mountain Co-op, a major regional buyer. Their procurement manager, Ethan Wells, visited Maple Hollow on a rainy morning, his boots sinking into the soil as he toured the greenhouses. "Your operation's impressive for a first-year farm," he said, tasting a sprig of my basil. "We're looking for a primary supplier for our 5 stores. Can you deliver 500 pounds of produce a week?" My heart skipped. That was 10 times my current output. "Give me 3 months," I said, "and I'll make it happen." Ethan shook my hand. "Deal. Show me you can scale and we'll sign a year-long contract." To meet that demand, I went all in. The grant money funded new equipment, a seed drill, a compost system, and a delivery van. Mia, Jake, and Sarah worked overtime, planting zucchini, arugula, and oyster mushrooms. I spent nights researching crop yields and pitching to restaurants like Harvest Moon, a farm-to-table spot in downtown Burlington. They signed a $2,000 monthly contract for my lavender and microgreens. Maple Hollow's revenue hit $10,000 a month, and I started turning a small profit. But scaling wasn't cheap. My savings were down to $1,000 and I was maxing out a credit card to cover fuel and fertilizer. Then came a rumor that changed everything. Mia overheard it at Green Valley Market. Greg's tech firm in Boston was laying off staff and he was jobless. Jenna, who'd mocked my quaint farm, was struggling as a freelancer, her clients drying up. Even Claire was facing a pay cut at her law firm. They'd all laughed when I left Boston, but now their stable lives were crumbling. I didn't gloat, I was too busy. But when Amos stopped by, sipping coffee in my farmhouse kitchen, I told him about the rumors. He chuckled. "Sounds like they're eating their words. What's your next move, Harper?" I grinned. "I'm not just building a farm. I'm building a brand. And when they come knocking, they'll see what I planted." Lena called a week later with another opportunity. "There's a regional food expo in Montpelier," she said. "Big buyers, investors, the works. You should pitch Maple Hollow for a partnership or investment." I spent days preparing a pitch deck, highlighting our $120,000 annual revenue 15-acre operation, and contracts with Farmhouse Table and Harvest Moon. The expo was my chance to take Maple Hollow to the next level, maybe even attract a buyer for a stake in the farm, giving me the cash to expand further. I was nervous, but Amos's words echoed in my head. "You're doing right by this land." I wasn't just proving them wrong. I was proving him right. As I packed for the expo, Jenna texted again. "Heard your farm's doing okay. Need a marketing consultant? I could use the work." I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the reply button. She'd called my farm a gamble and now she wanted a piece of it. I didn't respond, not yet. I had a pitch to nail and a legacy to build. 10 months after I traded Boston's skyscrapers for a tractor in Burlington, Vermont, Maple Hollow Farm was no longer the overgrown wreck I'd bought. My 15 acres bloomed with organic herbs, heirloom vegetables, and specialty mushrooms, supplying restaurants and co-ops across the region. My team, Mia, Jake, Sarah, and Sage the cat, worked like a family, and Amos Tate, my mentor, still dropped by with coffee and wisdom. My old boss Greg, friend Jenna, and sister Claire had laughed when I left the city, calling my farm a pipe dream. Now, as I stood at the Montpelier Food Expo preparing to pitch Maple Hollow to major buyers, they were the ones scrambling, and soon they'd be asking me for jobs. The expo was a whirlwind, booths packed with farmers, chefs, and investors, the air thick with the scent of fresh bread and cider. I stood at Maple Hollow's booth, my pitch deck loaded on a tablet, photos of our fields glowing on a banner. Lena Brooks, my farm-to-table contact, introduced me to Clara Evans, a buyer for Northeast Organics, a chain with 20 stores across New England. I pitched our $120,000 annual revenue, contracts with Farmhouse Table and Harvest Moon, and our new deal with Green Mountain Co-op to supply 500 pounds of produce weekly. Clara nodded, impressed. "Your farm's small but scalable," she said. "If you can deliver 2,000 pounds a week, we'll sign a $500,000 contract." My heart raced. That deal would make Maple Hollow $1 million operation. I shook Clara's hand, promising to meet her target in 6 months. But I needed capital to scale. More land, more staff, more equipment. At the expo, I met Ryan Patel, a partner at Vermont Growth Fund. I pitched Maple Hollow as a leader in sustainable agriculture, showing our growth charts and Instagram's 5,000 followers. Ryan leaned forward. "You're doing this in under a year? That's rare. What's your ask?" I took a breath. $250,000 to buy 10 more acres, hire 5 staff, and triple our output. He studied my numbers, then nodded. "I'm in. Let's make Maple Hollow a household name." The $250,000 investment changed everything. I bought the extra land, built a 3rd greenhouse, and hired 5 new workers, including a logistics manager, Tara, to handle deliveries. Green Mountain Co-op's contract kicked in, boosting our revenue to $20,000 a month. We supplied zucchini, arugula, and mushrooms to their 5 stores, and Farmhouse Table tripled their order. Maple Hollow was now a 25-acre operation with $240,000 in annual revenue and a staff of 8. Local media called us Vermont's organic powerhouse, and our Instagram hit 10,000 followers. But my old life wasn't done with me. Jenna showed up unannounced one morning, her designer coat out of place among my muddy fields. "Harper," she said, her voice shaky, "I lost my biggest client. I could help with your marketing. I'm good at it." I handed her a crate of tomatoes, keeping my tone neutral. "You called this a gamble, Jenna. Why do you want in now?" She flushed. "I was wrong. You're doing amazing." I nodded but didn't commit. "I'll think about it." Later, I got an email from Greg, my old boss. "Heard your farm's making waves," he wrote. "I'm between jobs. Need a consultant." I almost laughed. The man who'd mocked my pitchfork life wanted my help. The real shock came at a family barbecue in Boston, one I almost skipped. Claire pulled me aside, her usual confidence gone. "Harper, my firm's cutting salaries. I could use some work. Maybe your farm needs legal help." I stared, my fork paused over a plate of grilled corn. "You said I was wasting Grandma's money, Claire. Now you want a job." She looked away, mumbling, "I didn't know you'd make it this big." My parents, overhearing, chimed in. "We're proud of you, Harper," my mom said. "Why didn't you tell us how well you're doing?" I smiled, tight-lipped. "I tried. You told me to come back to Boston." I didn't hire them, not yet. I had a farm to run and a legacy to build. 6 months later, I stood on Maple Hollow's expanded fields, now 25 acres of vibrant crops. Northeast Organics signed the $500,000 contract, pushing our revenue to $750,000 a year. We supplied 10 restaurants, 3 co-ops, and a new farmers market in Montpelier. I hired 3 more workers, including a branding expert, to launch a Maple Hollow product line. Jars of lavender honey and dried mushrooms, sold online and in stores. Our Instagram hit 20,000 followers, and a national food blog called us the future of organic farming. Amos visited one evening, sitting on my farmhouse porch as Sage purred beside him. "You did it, Harper," he said, sipping coffee. "This land's alive because of you." I hugged him, tears in my eyes. He'd believed in me when no one else did, teaching me to plant, to persevere, to dream. My family's apologies came too late. Jenna, Greg, Claire, even my parents sent messages asking for jobs or partnerships. I replied politely but firmly, "Maple Hollow's full for now. I built this without you." A year later, I stood in a new warehouse, our packing facility for Maple Hollow's product line. We were a $1 million farm with 15 staff and plans to expand to New Hampshire. The fields I'd cleared with blistered hands were now a symbol of what grit and vision could do. I wasn't the woman they'd called foolish anymore. I was the woman who'd turned dirt into dollars, with one man's belief lighting the way. Success wasn't about proving them wrong, Greg, Jenna, Claire, my parents. It was about proving Amos right. He saw a farmer in me when I was just a city girl with a dream, and his lessons carried me through. When they laughed at my tractor, I smiled because I knew what I was planting. A legacy that outgrew their doubts. Hey, Revenge Tempest fans. Did Harper's $1 million comeback give you goosebumps? We're all about stories of triumph and justice here, so smash that subscribe button to join our squad. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from.